Hey guys, it's Luca here from Peak MSK Physiotherapy. Today we're going to be running through some exercises for back pain, and these are going to be some great exercises to do during lockdown if you want to maintain and strengthen your back, or if you just want to do some movements and exercise for your back in general. So some things that you will need a mat and a step. These are optional depending on your comfort level, but you will definitely need an elastic band, which I've got over here to the side, a TheraBand, the same one that we used in last week's video. You can also have a pillow behind your neck for comfort if you've got neck pain. So first off, what is the spine? So the spine is wonderfully designed to allow movement and stability. It is also designed to help absorb and distribute forces from everyday activities. So as you can see next to me, the spine is made up of different segmental bones, so 33 to be precise, and in between each of these vertebrae is a disc, and this binds the vertebrae together and helps act as a shock absorber. The spinal cord runs down the middle of the spine. You can't really see it because obviously it's in the middle, and it runs down the centre of the spine and helps to communicate between the brain and the rest of the body. The spine is also surrounded by muscles to help with movement and support. So why do I need to strengthen my back? So the muscles of the back work together to stabilise the spine and to make a range of movements possible, and exercise is a great way to keep these muscles strong for protection and for movement. So before we get started with the exercises, it's important to remember that these exercises are a great one-size-fits-all type of exercise and are based on the best current evidence. However, they may not be suitable for your exact injury. If your back hurts or hurts more than usual during these exercises, you may benefit from a more tailored program within your abilities. So let's get started on some exercise. I'll move this out of the way. And the first one that we're going to be doing is called lumbar rolls. So this is where the step comes in handy. I'll do it without the step first. Basically, you're going to be lying down with a pillow behind your head if you want it, with your feet flat on the ground, and you're just going to be rolling from side to side. And you're going to stop at the point where you start to feel your upper spine, your thoracic, leaving the floor. And we'll do about 12 of those. Now, if you wanted, you could use the step. And put it under your feet. And this will just target different parts of the spine. But I'm going to be doing it without the step. So this is an exercise more for getting movement into the spine, not necessarily strength. And it's a great exercise if you wanted to do it in the morning and at night, but it's good to do in the morning if you wake up with a bit of a stiff spine and you just want to get some movement through the lower back. And keeping that upper back in contact with the ground. Right, so we'll have a rest and then we'll do some more. another couple. And you may notice that you could go further towards the floor than what I'm going. Each person will have their own range before their upper back starts to lift off the floor. Some people might have more mobility, some people have less mobility. That's completely normal. Alrighty, so we'll have a rest and then we'll do one more lot of those exercises. And then the following ones that we'll do will be pelvic tilts, which you can either do in lying down, like we'll be doing, or you could do them standing up. So we'll do one more lot of those lumbar rolls. I'm getting a few good cracks every now and then out of my back, which is always fun. And this is an exercise that if you feel like it's helping, if you feel like it's doing you good, then you could do it for a bit longer than what I'm going to do it for. There's no real set amount. Alright, so we'll get started on the next exercise, which I briefly touched on before, and that is going to be the pelvic tilts. So if you look at my waistband, you'll notice the different colours between the shirt and the pants. And a pelvic tilt is when you tilt backwards, in this case, so tilting the pelvis forward, or the opposite, going down, like that. So a good way to imagine it is if you picture or imagine your pelvis is a bucket of water. So I'll do it in standing. If you imagine that your pelvis is a bucket of water, and if you tilt backwards like so, you tip the water out the front. If you go the other way, then the water tips out the back. So I'll move my hands front and back. The Elvis Presley kind of movement. So some people might find it easier to go in one direction. Generally people find that going forwards like that is a lot easier. But it might be easier if you start in lying down, depending on your abilities. But for now, we'll do a few of those. If it helps to physically hold onto your pelvis just to get an understanding of what it's doing, then by all means do that. And this just starts to switch on the muscles that surround the pelvis and starts activating them. Going forward and the other way. And it's a very small movement. So we'll have a rest before we get into another set of those. But it is, as I said, a very small movement, so don't be worried if you don't feel like a whole lot is happening at the pelvis, because it is just that small tipping forward and backwards. You might find doing it in front of a mirror helps so you can see your pelvis moving forwards and backwards, or you might want to record yourself doing it and see how it compares. We'll do some more of those. Right. So the next exercise that we're going to be doing is bridges. Some of you may be very familiar with these. They're a common exercise and they're great for your buttock strength as well as stability for the lower back. So we'll get started into those. There are different ways to do them depending on what you would like to target and your ability. I'm going to start with just a regular bridge. So feet about shoulder width apart, arms by your side, and you're just going to be pushing your buttocks up into the ceiling, towards the ceiling, and back down. And it's important that you don't go too high, so you don't want to be starting to arch your upper back. Just going up and down. So we'll do 10 of those. If you wanted to work more of your hamstrings than your glutes, you can move your feet a bit further away, and you'll notice that more in the back of your thighs. Six, 7, 8, 9, one more, and 10. Alright, and have a rest. So if you're finding those easy and you're not finding them much of a challenge, you can do it one-legged, but it's important that you keep your pelvis controlled when you're doing it. So you'll be going up like that and down if you wanted. Just be careful that you're not twisting through the pelvis as you're going upwards. Another thing that I will do now is I would combine the last exercise with this one. So I'll be doing a tilt and pushing up, and then coming back down and going back to neutral. So you can do that if you want. Otherwise you could just do the normal ones like we were doing before. So I'm going to tilt and then come up, down, and back to neutral. 2, 3. And as you're going up and down, try and focus on each segment of the spine that we talked about before, and imagine each one rising before or after the other one and sort of peeling off the floor and then coming back down one after the other. So I've lost count, so we'll call that 7, 8, 9, 10. Alrighty. Good. So we'll do one more set, but you can play around with what is most challenging for you. You might find that single-legged is most appropriate for you. You might find that you need to work on your tilting of your pelvis, so you might combine that with the glute bridges. Some people find a step is good for them. This is particularly good for people post like a knee operation and they physically can't bend the knee to what's required, so they might have less knee range, so putting it on a step helps to, or requires less bending of the knee than down on the ground. So it'll be the same kind of thing, or you might have just more stiff and painful knees that don't bend that far. So same thing, you'll be going up and down, up and down. So I'm going to do another 8 of those without the step. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Aim for 10, but I already did 2 on the step, so that's a total of 10. Okay. So the next exercise that we're going to be running through has a lot of different names. I think the most common one that people call is Superman, where you're on your hands and knees and you're doing some, make sure I'm not kicking anything, some variation of that. So some key points when you're doing this is you want to engage your core and you want to control what your spine is doing. So you don't want to have your back arched and you don't want to have your back arched the other way. You also might benefit from starting just with your arms or just with your legs, depending on your ability. So we'll do some of those. We'll aim for 10. So I'm going to start just with the arms. So engaging your core, making sure your back is parallel to the ground. I don't want to hit that. You can use the same arm or alternate arms. But the key is that your arms, and I'll show you later on the legs, but they don't go higher than needed. They stay parallel to the ground. Alright, and we'll have a rest, and then we'll do a progression of going with our legs. Ooh, getting a workout. Alright, so we'll get started with the legs, and then the last set I'm going to do with both the arms and the legs. If you're finding it too challenging, or if you think that perhaps you're best suited to the arms or best suited to the legs, or maybe you don't want to alternate, you just want to do one, then by all means, that's still effective. Okay, so with the legs, same principle. Your hands are going to be shoulder width apart, your legs are going to be spaced apart, and you're going to be kicking back and in. I'll show you again on the left. So kicking back, again making sure it's parallel like that. You don't want it too high, and you don't want to be arching your back when you're going up, but just kicking back to parallel, and then back in. And I'm going to be alternating. Again, you don't have to, depending on what suits you. This is another good exercise to do in front of the mirror, just to see how parallel your legs are going, and if they are in fact going where you think they are. Alright, so we'll have a rest. Grab some water if you need it, and then we'll go into alternating with your arms, with your arms as well as your legs. So it's a bit more of a coordination as well as a whole body type of exercise. Okie dokes. So I will try not to kick anything. So you'll be doing your right arm and your left leg, and then your left arm and your right leg. So, like so. Again, keeping things parallel. Show you a different angle. That's the kind of movement that you'll be doing. And making sure you're engaging that core the whole way through. Right, so that brings us onto our final exercise, which is going to be rows. So I'm going to be doing this sitting down just because it's easier with this setup. You can do it sitting down if you like, or you could do it standing, but this is where that band comes in that we were talking about before. So you will be either shuffling back like I am, or stepping back from wherever your band is tied to, whether it's a door handle or something similar. You'll be setting up the band so that it's about elbow height, and then you'll be relaxing forward so the tension's on the band, and then pulling it towards you. And this is called rows. So when you go back, you'll be pinching your shoulder blades together, and as you go forward, you should feel your shoulder blades separate. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll stop there. Okay, so the important things to remember is that you're not rolling your shoulders forwards when you're doing it. You're standing up, well, you're standing or sitting up nice and straight, depending on where you are, and pulling straight back towards you and pinching your shoulder blades on the way back. This is great if you have noticed or people have told you that you tend to be more hunched forward in your posture. So it's good for people that sit at computers for long periods of time. It helps to really bring your shoulder blades back and strengthen up the back muscles to bring everything back to sort of neutral. So we'll do another 2 sets of those. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Last one, and 10. We'll have a rest. If you're finding that it is getting too easy, then you can move further away from wherever the band is tied up. If you're finding it too difficult, then you can move forwards towards wherever the band is tied up to reduce the tension. This is about right for me, so I'm going to stay here. So the last one, we're going to keep doing it like we're doing, pulling about elbow height, pinching the shoulder blades back, thumbs pointing towards the ceiling. It's not like that, or it's not turned inwards, so neutral. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Alrighty. So that's all the exercises for today. Thanks for tuning in. These have been some great exercises for lower back strength, mobility and control, as well as we ran through some upper back strengthening exercises too. If you would like to know more or think you need a more in-depth assessment or treatment of your back, send us a message, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's video where we'll be running through some exercises for sciatica. Alrighty, we'll see you then.